All right, let's take a look at the difference between the mean and the median. As a quick definition, the mean is the measure of center based on the observed values in a data set, and the median is the measure of center based on the order of the values in the data set. So as a bit of a contrast here, we have that the data set I have has 11 entries and various numbers here. So we have 3 1s, 3 2s, 1 3, 1 4, 1 5, and 2 6s. Okay, that's what we see up here. What we have over here is that the median is going to be as the center of the order. It's going to be the value of the middle number. So if I were to arrange these from small to large, my values, then the median is going to be the middle value. So having 11 entries, halfway through 11 will be 6. Okay, so think about it more like 5 values on either side of 6. So giving us the center point, in other words, a value 2. When we look at the mean, taking the average value, we're saying, okay, well, the value 1 has a certain weight and the value 6 has a slightly heavier weight. And so if we think about them in terms of a balance, a little scale here, then as we stack up blocks on the value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, on and so forth, then the mean is going to be the focal point or the fulcrum that balances the weight. So if I were to change these values here, and let's say I'm going to change this 4 here, I'm going to make this 4 here, I'm going to make it a 5. Notice that the mean will increase slightly, but the median doesn't change. So what we'll have is if I take this 4 here and I'm going to stack it now on the 5s, the balance is going to be slightly tipped here, and so I need to adjust the fulcrum so that it catches a little bit better, something at 3.09. Now, if I were instead to make this 5 a 6, and maybe I'll make this 5 also a 6, notice that the mean continues to rise, but the median stays the same. So these two 5s are now stacked on top of the 6. Okay, so I'd have to adjust by making this a little bit bigger, all right, to keep the balance there. Now, instead of turning these on to 6s, what if there were 3s? Oops, not 33. So notice the mean has dropped significantly. So all of these 6s are now 3s. So I'm going to take these and stack them on the 3s. And clearly, I mean, the fulcrum is going to have to switch down here to capture that. So something in there. Okay, it's 2.18 to balance it out. But notice the whole time the median never changed position. So let's talk a little bit about what makes the median, or how we would find that middle observation. Let's see, ink window. Oops. Let's see. Talk about the drawing pad. There we go. I don't want the grid lines, but I think I'm kind of stuck. So when we have the median, we have the idea of taking the middle observation. Okay, so in our case we have n being 11 observations. And what that tells us, the way we'd find the middle observation, I mean, if you look at this, we have 11 nicely laid out, and you can see that 6 is the middle, but the other way we can say this is that the middle observation will be the n plus 1 divided by 2 observation. So in our case we have 11 plus 1 all over 2, so 12 over 2, hey, that's 6. Okay, so we could talk about the 6th observation. The 6th observation will be the mean. Okay, so notice over here we aren't interested in actually what the values are, as long as they're lined up completely, from smallest to largest. So how would I change which value would be the median? Well, I'd have to either add on more values or take away some of them. So let's say that these two go away. Delete. Okay. what we have is, make sure this is right, what we have is that the median is 2. It's not this 2 anymore. It's actually this 2 back here. So it drops back 1. So we say, okay, between the values 1 through 9, if you look at 4 values and 4 values, then the median is going to be that middle value. Okay. Now, if we were to drop this back one more, let's say that we were, instead of looking at 11 observations, we're only looking at 10 observations. Okay, you don't necessarily notice it here, but we take the convention that if you take 10 objects, the middle is going to actually land in between 2 observations. Okay, so what we would do then, and if that's the case, if we had an even amount of observations, okay, so even number of observations, we could still apply this n plus 1 over 2, but in the case of n equaling 10, we have 10 plus 1 all over 2, so 11 over 2, which is 5.5. Well, clearly you can't have a half of an observation. You either have it or you don't. And so because of that, we actually take the average of, in this case, the 5th and 6th observation. Okay, so in that case, when we have just 10 observations, it's actually the average of these two. So to show you that's the case, I'm going to change this 2, I'm going to change it to a 3. And so we see now that the median is going to be the average between 2 and 3, or halfway in between 2 and 3. Okay. I know that I've been changing values, which then affects this picture, but hopefully that's okay to talk about the median and the mean separately like that. Okay, so it's kind of interesting to see that the mean is really susceptible to changes in the values, whereas the median is always going to be centered no matter what the values are. Due to that fact, or due to that reason, we have sometimes have to make a choice. If you had a data set that had very extreme values, maybe you had a data set that went from 1 all the way up to, let's say, 200. Okay. Well, what's going to happen is the median stays exactly the same, and if you think about it, 200 is like so far out. It's such an extreme value from all of the other ones that maybe it was an observation made in error or something like that. So the median won't change, but look at the mean. It's now greatly increased. That value of 200 that's way over here has dragged the mean towards it to balance out. If you have a really heavy object really far away, you would have to position this fulcrum much closer to it. So because of that, we would say that the median is resistant to extreme values, whereas the mean is highly susceptible to change. Okay, so throughout our analysis of data sets, I'll try to point that out and say, when it might be more appropriate to talk about the median versus the mean.